Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Tabito Show. Today, we will be talking with Angel Mariscal. Angel Mariscal is a wrestler at Simpson University. He's a former junior college state placer. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up to Angel Mariscal.
Hi, my name is Angel Mariscal. I wrestle here at Simpson University. I'm the heavyweight here. Um, I've been wrestling since I was 8 years old, and I think wrestling has become a huge part in my life now. So it's pretty cool that I get to talk about it with you guys.
Well, can you tell us about the sport, like about the rules and everything, and how like wrestling since you were younger, like has helped like understand the rules and the competitions of the tournaments.
Okay, so when I started wrestling, I definitely didn't know what I was getting myself into. Um, Wrestling is not a sport where it's like super popular, so not a lot of people know. Like basketball, where you can shoot a 3-pointer, you can go free throws, all that stuff. You got your out of bounds. Like people generally know that stuff, even if they don't play the sport. I think with wrestling, you have to be part of the sport in order to understand it. And the way it works is basically you have a ring, which is just a circle. And in that circle, you have a smaller circle. So the main objective is to try to take your opponent down. A takedown is worth 2 points. If your opponent takes you down, then your objective changes to getting up, getting an escape, getting away, or getting behind that guy, reversing him. So if you escape, it's 1 point. If you reverse the guy, it's 2 points. And then every single round, there's 3 rounds, which we call periods. So every single period, your objective changes. So you start off neutral, which is just both on your feet, and you're both trying to score a takedown, trying to put points on the board. In the second period, it'll be either green or red's choice, and the ref will ask you if you want top, bottom, or neutral again. Most people go bottom because once you go bottom, you have the opportunity to just score 1 point as soon as you get out. So it's kind of like a free point. Then your opponent will get choice, the third period. And then so on and so forth. When you get more into it, there's also stalling calls, there's cautions. So it's a very disciplined sport in which you have to basically, try to break your opponent mentally and physically. So the discipline comes in trying not to fight your opponent, trying not to be over aggressive, trying not to, resort to cheap tricks or like a sucker punch or whatever you'd have it, because there is penalty points. There is unnecessary roughness calls. You can't pull on any clothes. You can't, pull on the guy's headgear. You can't poke a guy. It's a very disciplined sport in which you just have to use your technique versus that technique to try to score points. You can also win by a pinfall. So pinfall is when you put your opponent to their back and their shoulder blades touch the mat. That automatically ends the match, regardless of the points that are scored. That's pretty much the gist of it.
You're talking about like getting up, about pinning and those things, and how does the practicing actually get you ready to be at that moment and to actually prepare yourself to be there.
Yeah, so like when we're practicing, a lot of the drills we do are usually to try to get an escape fast. As soon as the whistle blows, you're told to explode up to your feet and just start fighting, trying to get your escape, fight the hands. You put your hips out. Don't let this guy return you. If he returns, you got to pop right back up. And most of the time, these drills can be very tiring. And, it can be discouraging if somebody picks you up and slams you back down to the mat. But when you're in the practice room, they prepare you to, as soon as you touch the mat, you pop back up and you're fighting again. You don't stop. Same thing comes to when you're practicing your takedowns. They always tell you got to finish how you would finish in a match. So if you're getting to the leg, take the guy completely down, because if you just stop as soon as you get the leg, then it's going to become a habit. And then when you go out in competition, you're going to get to the leg and you won't be able to finish. So another thing they emphasize is to over exaggerate the little things. Over exaggerate when you shoot that penetration step, over exaggerate it. Over exaggerate your snaps, over exaggerate. Pretty much every little thing that you do to get to that finish, you have to over exaggerate, and you have to just repeat it. And another thing that they teach us a lot in the practice room is to set yourself up to be able to wrestle anybody. So we don't drill just one move, even if we're good at it. We don't drill 2 moves or 3. We drill a variety of moves, and we drill those moves in a way that we can chain wrestle. So chain wrestling just means wrestling from one move to the next move to the next move to the next move. Because if we're being realistic, when you're wrestling a high-level opponent, especially in college, most of the time your first shot is not going to take the guy down. It's usually going to be your second or third shot. So you have to be able to go from, maybe a single leg, transition over to a high crotch, transition over back out to a single leg, and then this guy defends again, you transition over to a double leg and you finish. If you're on top, you got an underhook, you reach over to the near leg, he moves that back, you go over, you knee tap him. He gets out of the knee tap, then you snap. He gets out of the snap, and you high crotch. It's just constant wrestling, and that's something that is emphasized a lot in the practice room, which just prepares you for when you're in the moment. You know what you're doing. You don't have to think about it. It's just kind of a reaction at that point.
Yeah, so it is kind of like, you're doing one thing, but as you're doing that one thing, you already know, kind of like, okay, I have been practicing like takedowns in the room. I have been practicing outside singles. I have been practicing, like underhooks, horns, like every single move, like low singles. Like you have been practicing all of that. So kind of like when you go out there and you wrestle, and kind of like that really does, like place in the match, because you have been practicing now, okay, if this doesn't work, then I gotta look for this. And basically through that, you're always looking for openings to actually get the guy down, right? Like to win the match and to score points. And how does, like knowing those things and, your teammates, how does having a teammates makes you a better athlete, like in the match, and brings confidence to yourself, but as well, how does that actually bring something to themselves back and lets them know, hey, you know what, if this guy is doing good, then I can do good too, because we are doing the same things in the room, even though we're different weight class. We're basically doing the same things. It's just the weight difference, but also the main thing. But if he can do it, then I can do it too. How does that actually place into create a bond?
Okay, so the way I was taught to think about my partners is you're always as good as your partner. You have your partner that pushes you every day, right? If your partner is not your biggest rival, then I think you need a different partner. You need to know that the guy that can steal your position at any given moment, that's the guy you have to try to outwork. That's the guy that you have to try to push. And same goes for the opposite guy. If he knows that you're the main guy and it's either his dream or your dream, he's gonna push you, and he's gonna be wrestling hard every single day, to show you, hey, I want that spot. And it's your job to kind of develop as he develops. You guys are both, rising to the level of competition of each other. So I think that's really important when you have a wrestling partner, and I think that's what makes you a better wrestler. Having that partner that if you push up the pace, he's gonna push up that pace with you. If you turn up into a fifth gear, he's gonna shift to that fifth gear with you. And I think that's super important, and I think that's what gets you 1% better every day. You guys constantly pushing each other, but also being able to talk it out after practice. Your partner can go up to you and be like, "Hey, dude, you're staying a little too distant. You're shooting from far away. I'm able to see it." Or maybe you're hesitating a little too much. Like I can feel like you're about to take me down, and then you hesitate and you go to something else because you feel like you're not going to get it. And I think the combination of him trying to beat you, but also trying to help you beat him is what makes you guys better. Because now you gave this guy your, I guess, your advantage. So now you have to figure out a different way to beat him, and that's how you keep improving. As opposed to like having teammates that are different weight classes. I think what helps you is watching them practice. You do the same things, but maybe they do something slightly different. Little guys usually scramble, so sometimes they stay a little tighter. As opposed to heavyweights. When you get in on a shot, your leg could be extended, and you don't think a heavyweight's going to reach out and grab it. You don't see that danger. You know, but once in a while, you will find a heavyweight that's going to grab that leg and start scrambling. So you have to be prepared for that, so you can take it from the little guys. Oh, look, he tucks his leg in a little bit. Now you can't reach it. So then you pick that up and you bring it to your style of wrestling. And I think bringing both styles and putting them into one just makes you an elite wrestler. So I think that's one way that teammates help out in your improvement and your confidence. Well, I mean, if you're wrestling and your partner's constantly telling you, man, my goal is to beat you, or is constantly telling you like, man, you wrestled hard today, it makes you feel like you're improving every single day. When he tells you, hey, that was a good practice, good scramble, good scrap, whatever it is, you feel confident. You feel like you worked that day. You put in that money in the bank and you're going to cash out at the end of the season. That's the way I think about it.
That's a really good mindset and a really good of looking at things, because I didn't think about that way. I didn't get to see them. Now I do see it. And like you were saying, like having a teammate that actually, like probably is around your weight class, and like you say that he tells you, hey man, like I'm gonna beat you next time. Or, hey man, like you did really good this time. Like I really like like how you were shooting the outside, how you were shooting the double, and kind of like looking at those things builds your confidence, builds your trust in what you're doing. And at some point, because they know what you're really good at, also they know how to defend you. So now you got to work even harder to kind of like get that shot and get it deeper and just score in that point. Kind of like that, in a way, his defense, if you're like shooting, his defense gets really good. But also when you can't shoot, is because they figure it out. So now you got to look at them. You got to look at how they are doing, and you got to figure them out. You got to figure how to score. Basically, just figure those things out. Kind of like you say, makes you so much of a better athlete. Just with them, but also when you have adversity of many other guys in your team. Now you have this guy, you have that guy, you have that guy, and you have a lot of guys that they have so many other things. Kind of like once you take, you figure them out, they figure you out, but also in a way you improve, and I believe in sports that should always be the goal, improving, and also like helping each other to raise, to rise, like, and just be competitive, and how does like knowing these things, sport and everything kind of like helps you, like in competition, like your teammate, practicing and those things. How does everything sets in when you're about to compete? And what do you do in visualization? How do you visualize yourself before going into the match? Like how do you meditate, kind of like get yourself ready, get the nerves gone, like don't get too nervous, but kind of like keep the nervous, but don't get it too high, and kind of like don't be too relaxed, kind of like finding that balance of competing. And how does that work for you?
So I think when it comes to competition, I think about all the things that my partner has told me. You have a really good high crotch, you have a really good double leg, you have a good underhook. And I think those are the things that I focus on. And I say, okay, in this competition, I'm going to score with my underhooks. I'm going to score with my high crotch. I'm going to score with my double leg, because that's what I'm good at. I visualize myself wrestling my opponent the way I would wrestle my partner, going through the motion setups, constantly moving the guy, the pressure, knowing that this guy may be able to defend my high crotch. But then I think about what I did with my partner when he defended my high crotch. Okay, he defended my high crotch. I'm going outside single now, and I'm driving, driving, driving. And if this guy decides to pressure me forward, then I'm going to dive into a double leg and I'm going to take him down. There it is. If this guy jacks me up, I'm going up to my underhook because that's another thing I'm good at. So I think about that before my competitions. I think about, the things that I did in practice, and knowing that I put in work every single day makes me feel a lot more confident. Knowing that there is no way that anyone here has worked harder than me. I think that helps me deal with the nerves. There is times when, let's say, you have a really big match that you get really nervous. My way of stopping the nerves is usually I try to distance myself from everybody. And I try to just, first I pray, and then I close my eyes and I think of all the people that have sacrificed for me to be in that moment. I think of all the people that have helped me get to where I am. And I think about, the people behind me, supporting me, knowing that win or lose, everything's going to be fine. Win or lose, I have my family there, whether it's my team family or my family, my immediate family, knowing that, they're still going to be there when the match is over, regardless of a win or a loss. They're going to treat me the same, knowing that it's not the end of the world if I lose that match, knowing that, it's just another match, and regardless of the result, everything's going to be okay. I think that helps me calm down, and just knowing that I prepared myself to the best of my abilities helps me create that balance. I try to keep some of the nerves because I really feel like when you're nervous, you're really aware and it keeps you on your toes. So I really like having nerves. And another reason I like having the nerves is because I know that I still love what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I know that I still care about it, because when I don't have any nerves, I have lost the passion. I have lost, the drive or the focus and the meaning to everything. So I like to feel nerves. I like to feel a little bit of nerves and let me know, like, okay, I care about this. This is what I love to do. I'm nervous because I'm a little bit afraid of my performance, but at the same time, you're confident. It's a crazy thing that you would have to experience in person in order to understand it. It's kind of like when you take a big test and you studied hard, but you're still a little bit nervous because you don't know what's going to be on the test. You don't know what's going to happen, and you go out there and you say, I studied hard. I hope for the best. I'm going to ace it, even if you're nervous. It's the same thing in a wrestling match. You go out there, you don't know what your opponent does. You don't know how he wrestles, so you don't know what to expect on that test. But you know that you're going to be tested. You know that it's going to be hard, and you know that even though you put in the work, there might be some things you're going to miss, just like you missed some questions. But at the end of the day, you say, hey, even if I stumble a little bit, I studied hard, or I'm good enough to get that win. I'm good enough to pass that test. And I think that's the mentality that you should have. And I think that's the way it happens. Your practice would be, every day in classroom, all the lectures, and then the extra work you put in outside of the wrestling room would be, a study guide that you do, and I think when your partners would be your classmates, if you put it in that aspect so everybody can understand it. And right before the test, you're nervous, but you're confident at the same time because you did all those little things. You did all those little things right. So it's going to be hard, but I can get after it and I can do it.
I see that. I see that a lot, and that's really cool. It's really cool how your family, how like your teammates, kind of like comparing them to, like looking at them, like and being like, they're my classmates, and when I'm in the class and I'm taking a test, like looking at that way helps you like so much into it, and built you up, and that's always like something like that's really good to know, because that's pretty much like one of my coaches, he always said, there is nothing more difficult than wrestling. Like like he would say, when I go to this job, like people ask me why am I always happy, And he would say, I'm always happy because I'm not in a wrestling room getting beat up, That's
Yeah.
what he would say. And kind of like that, when you go to a work environment, kind of like when you see your coworkers, you kind of see them as your team, your friends, your teammates in the wrestling room, because that's what builds everything up. And yeah. And what's your plan for this year for wrestling at Simpson? What's your plan for this year? And what do you think about international wrestling? How do you think of watching United World Wrestling? Like the tournaments competition. How do you think that has helped you so much into this year, if you have seen it, or NCAA? How does that actually has helped you? And I know that you coach. You're a coach. How does coaching for kids, make you give you that insight about coaching, but also about doing the sport?
So, okay, let's start off with my plans. My plans for this year. Um, you know, I think everybody has the goal of being an All American. Everybody has the goal of being a national champion. How you're going to get there. That's the end result, but how are you going to get there? So, to me, my goal is to wrestle tough every match, every position, not get scored on. I want to fight every takedown as hard as possible. My goal is to show my opponent that I'm willing to wrestle and that I have a next gear that he's not ready for. I want to show him that I have outworked him. So when I go out there and wrestle, I want this guy breathing heavy. And when he's breathing heavy and he thinks we're tired, I'm ready to take it up for a different gear. I'm ready to pick up the pace and get after it. Let this guy know that no matter what position we're getting into, I'm going to win it. You know, um, and I've set myself up for that by wrestling in the room and putting myself in positions that I'm not comfortable in. I think if I become comfortable with the uncomfortable, I think I can't be beat. So my goal for this year is to All American, and at the same time, just assert my position in this weight class. I have prepared too hard. I have sacrificed too much to not take this opportunity and run with it. So I'm taking this opportunity and I'm running with it, and I'm going to the end zone. So that's my plans. Um, to the international wrestling, how it's helped me. I think it's helped me drastically. Um, I've watched international wrestling almost every single day, for hours. I love watching international wrestling, even though it is a different style of wrestling than what I'm doing. The way that they position themselves in a match or the way they have their setups is exactly the same. So I like to incorporate it. There's actually a couple moves that I've been trying to do in the wrestling room. Um, I've watched Keith Gavin's matches, and he's very slick. He has a lot of tricks, and I think when you're wrestling heavyweights and there's people that are a lot bigger than you, a lot stronger than you, you need those little tricks to catch them off guard, to be able to score. And I've been learning that. On top, I've been watching a lot of the Russians. The Russians know how to keep pressure. They know how to keep driving you all your weight to your hands. So I've been watching that, how to load up your opponent, really wear them down. Um, I've been watching a lot of Team USA because I really feel that conditioning wise we are superior. It's been proven in a lot of matches. USA just has a different gear. USA is known for breaking their opponents when it comes to the last 30 seconds. They will wrestle hard, and most of the other people they can't keep up. David Taylor's a good example. He's torched people. He burns them out. He makes them feel like they don't want to wrestle anymore. Jordan Burroughs does the same thing. He wrestles at a super high pace, and when it comes down to those last 30 seconds, the guy can't move. He's so much slower. He doesn't know what to do, and he just crumbles. So that's kind of what I put in my mentality, having that fifth gear. I want to do that to my opponents. Uh, and now to coaching, I think coaching just gives you a completely different insight. I think when you're watching somebody else compete, I think you're able to see openings that you usually don't see when you're competing. I think you also develop a different mentality. I think in a way wrestling becomes easier when you're a coach because you don't have pressure on you to make a mistake, to be out there on the mat and say, I'm going to take this shot. And I know this guy's going to fight it hard. In that sense, you kind of see, okay, if I shoot here and then I turn the corner, I elevate his ankle, right? And you start seeing it differently and you start kind of playing it in your head, how this is going to happen. And I think when you push someone else, I think it also kind of lights a fire inside of you. Like, if I'm making this guy work, I should be working. I should be leading by example. So it definitely changes your mentality. As for me, I think it made chain wrestling a lot easier for me. I think it made seeing my opponent's mistakes a lot easier, a lot more obvious. Um, when you're in a match, it's your job as a coach to see the weaknesses in the other wrestler. So I think you focus a lot more on the weaknesses, and you see so many different styles when you're a coach. You have guys that are super super small, as small as they come, and then you have kids that are as big as they come, and everything in between. And when you have to coach all those different styles, I think you just become a better all around wrestler, and you're prepared for every style. So to me, I feel prepared for anything that's coming. I feel like I've seen it all. So I think I pick up on the setups, on the bait. When someone's baiting the leg, I know it's coming. So you have to keep those things out when you're wrestling. And you see your wrestler, and you see the guy baiting the leg, and you tell your guy, "Hey, he's baiting you. Don't take that leg." So then when I'm in a match and someone's baiting me, I sense it right away. It's like, this guy's baiting me. I'm not gonna fall for that. Or when you're wrestling hard and you see, oh, this guy's leaning forward, I could snap. So then you're in a match and it just comes to you, oh, he's leaning, snap, And so I think I become my own coach in my head, and I know what a coach looks for, so I know what a wrestler has to be. So I think that really helps me a lot when it comes to my wrestling.
Yeah, that really does help. I mean, just being able to see who you're coaching, and basically as a coach, you gotta see the athlete and you gotta let them be free. You can't be, bossy, like, like sometimes you're with yourself, you're little, like, gotta do this way, gotta do that way. But when you're a coach, you gotta let them be free and you gotta let them do it the way it's better for them. And kind of like when you do that, you learn so much, like you say, and lets you know as a coach what do you look for in an athlete, but also how you can be an athlete, being a coach. What do you do for like how do you celebrate, a competition? Like, let's say you have won a match. How do you deal with that? That the match, you have won a match. How do you enjoy it? But also you have another match coming. How do you, you're in the semifinals, national tournament. You're in the national tournaments. You're in the semifinals. You won the semifinals. Now you're excited because you're gonna go wrestle to the finals. Now in this match, the nerves and everything is just so high, because you're like, damn, I just won this match. Now I just gotta go to the finals. How do you, how would you deal with that? And then at the same time, calm yourself down to get yourself ready for the next match and just feed yourself to battle.
To me, when I wrestle, I like to feed off my wins. I like to bring momentum. I think about it kind of like, physics. Something that's in motion tends to stay in motion. So if I'm winning, I think to myself, I just got to keep winning. And when I win the first match, it gives me relief, because I think to me the first match is the hardest match, because it's when you're getting all your jitters out. It's the first time you're stepping on the mat. I think that's when the nerves are hitting you. Like, how is this tournament going to be? But I think after you win the first match, it's kind of like that comes off of you. The weight just comes off of you. The nerves come off of you. And I think you're ready. If I were to win the semifinals and nationals, I think I'd be excited. But I know you don't get too high on one win. You don't get too low on one loss. So the tournament continues. For me, I was taught at a very young age, take it one match at a time. You win your match, you celebrate, good, I won the match, it's not over. I'm on to the next one. Um, but at the same time, it's like I just beat this guy. I've been tearing up this tournament. I'm in the finals. This is it. This is my dream versus his dream. Who wants it the most? And I think I let that feed me and excite me to the point where I use that adrenaline to not feel tired. I use that adrenaline to not feel pain. I use that adrenaline, to be stronger, to be faster. Um, but at the same time, I don't let my heart rate get too high to where I am breathing heavy now, right before the match. I don't let it get to the point where I'm gassing out in the first period because my heart's just too excited. So I think it comes down to the balance that we talked about earlier, where you just kind of take a deep breath. You think about, yourself going out there and competing, and you think about, okay, it's the national finals. Yes, I could be a national champion. If I lose, it's okay. I made it here. I am a national finalist. I am an All-American. If I lose, it's not the end of the world. Yes, I missed out on my goal. I missed out on my dream. But I think you aim high so that even if you lose, you do something that not a lot of people can do. Not a lot of people can call themselves a national finalist. Not a lot of people can call themselves All-Americans. So I think at first you're nervous, but if you really think about it and you put yourself in that position, I'm still a great wrestler. This loss does not define me. So I think to put all that into perspective, I think it balances you out. The excitement and knowing that even if you lose and your nerves, I think they have to meet in the middle. And I think that's what allows you to wrestle to the best of your abilities. So I think that's the way I would go about it if I just want semifinals and I know there's one more match. I'd use the excitement to fuel me, to energize me, but I think I would use that same energy to balance my nerves out and kind of keep them at a good medium.
Find the balance in to like help you deal with it and help you move on through it. That's very interesting, and it's good to know those things. Good to be aware of them, because once you know those things, they make you you understand everything, and you also understand why you're doing it and what's the reason to it. And yeah, man, it has been a pleasure to talk about the sport and everything, and you giving us an insight about college wrestling. And how's it like living in college? How is it like living in college to end up to conclude the show? How's it like wrestling in college? Make you, how does wrestling, kind of like wrestling in college, living in college, kind of like is so much different to wrestling in high school? And what would be your advice to a high school kid that wants to wrestle in college?
So living in college is great. I live on campus, so I live in the dorms. I really like that because everything's really close by. If I want to go to class, I don't have to be rushing. I can just walk to class. It takes me about 3 minutes to get to class. Regardless of where I'm at, the dorms are kind of in the middle of everything. If I want to go eat food, the cafeteria is right behind my dorm. So I just walk outside, get my food, I can come back inside. We practice here on campus. I walk over, it takes me about 5 minutes to get to the gym, get to work, come right back home. I think it keeps me focused. So I really like wrestling here in college. The difference to high school would be you have a lot of distractions when you're in high school because you're done wrestling, you go home, you're by yourself. You can mess around, you can do whatever you want. I guess your parents would look after you, but I don't think you have the responsibility that you have when you are in college. When you're in college, you have free time, but you also have to do everything on your own. You have to buy your own groceries. You have to pay your own bills. You have to be the one that wakes up in the morning. Your parents are not going to wake you up in the morning. You have to wake up and you have to prepare yourself to go to school. You have to get your own breakfast. You have to get your own dinner, everything, right? You have to make sure that you're at practice on time because your parents are not going to drive you to practice. They're not going to remind you, hey, practice is in 10 minutes. Let's go. You have to know that stuff. I think that's a big difference. Another big difference would be the people you are around. I think when you are in high school, there's a lot of kids that aren't very serious about the sport. There's a lot of kids that just join because they just want to join. But when you're in college, everybody here has a passion for the sport. Everybody in college loves the sport. Everybody in college wants to be successful in the sport. So I think when you're around those people, it drives you and it feeds into your drive, your passions, your desire to want to succeed. I think you guys feed off one another, and it's a recipe for success. My advice to someone in high school, we had some recruits from Utah here yesterday, and they were asking some questions about college and stuff. My advice would be manage your time. Like I said, there's a lot of free time in college. Your classes are divided. So maybe one day you only have one class. Maybe one day you have a lot of classes. So just being able to manage your schedule, knowing, okay, I'm going to do this at this time. And then after class, I'm going to do all my homework. And then I get my free time. Because in my opinion, college is easier than high school. But what really messes you up is having the free time. Because you have so much time that you become, good at procrastinating and saying, oh, it's not due until 2 weeks from now. And I have plenty of time. I'll just do it next week. Then you mess around this whole week and then you're just like, it's plenty of time. I have the whole week to do this. I'll do this Friday. And then once you get there, you're kind of like, dang, what am I supposed to do? And so you start struggling a little bit. And once you lose focus on one thing, it becomes a chain reaction. You lose focus here, then you lose focus here, then you lose focus here, then you lose focus here. It's like when you get hurt, You just say you hurt your leg. Now you can't walk with this leg. So you're putting all that weight on this other leg. So now this other leg starts hurting because it's doing the work of two legs. So then what's going to happen? Both of your legs are going to start hurting. And you're like, oh, man. And then it just starts being a chain reaction. So now you got to make up for that. Now you're moving around with your arms a little bit more. Now your shoulders start hurting because you're carrying so much weight. So it's just little by little things fall apart like that. So I think time management and staying focused is definitely the key to success in college wrestling and college in general. I think being in a sport like wrestling that has so much discipline, that requires so much focus, I think that allows you to do school because you're so focused, you're so goal-driven that you were taught to do all these little things to prepare you for that tournament. And how are you going to prepare for the tournament when you have homework? So you have to do your homework in order to clear your mind, right? So it's all a process, and I think that would be my best advice for the high school kids. Just stay focused, stay consistent, keep your goals, know what you're wrestling for, know why you're going to school. And I think that's just a recipe for success, and you can't fail if you do those things.
Yes, that's true what you're saying. It's true that you got to take care of every little thing, and then the fun comes later. The fun comes later once you take care of those things. And this is how we conclude this show, for today. And I hope you guys like it. Those who are watching it and those who are being part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was nice having you here, man. It was nice having you here and tell us a little bit more about the sport and everything that goes behind preparation, practice, the points, everything, because it's good to have people that are doing the next level already, college level, and have this experience, this knowledge. So then younger kids who want to do it, they know about it, and there are so many opportunities, so many things you can do with it if you really take the chance.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree 100%.